My name is Dana Golden, and I am teaching you environmental and natural resource economics. Welcome back. Last time we talked about cost-benefit analysis, and we discussed how to think about the costs and benefits associated with environmental action. Today, we're going to continue that with non-market valuation and a discussion of how to really, this is the toolkit for cost-benefit analysis in environmental economics because most things don't have markets. Non-market valuation is kind of a weird idea. And it's very weird for economists because, in many ways, it's an exercise in communism. There's this great book I read this summer called Red Plenty, and it's about the Soviet Union in the 50s, and it follows around a group of social planners. Like one of the big things in the book is this one economist who actually is a real person who was the only Soviet Nobel Prize winner. He was working on linear programming, and he was trying to develop a way to use basically Lagrangian optimization, shadow prices, to find an efficient optimization, create prices without the use of a market economy. And that's pretty clear in the book that this is a slightly weird exercise. It's very smart and but it's just never going to work. Non-market valuation is very similar to this. You don't have a market for something, and you have to find out how much this is worth. And so there's this inherent cognitive dissonance, this inherent tension there. And, it's hard. It's hard to, make things work without a market. But we're going to figure out how to do it. And, it's a really valuable area of environmental economics. It's just a very difficult idea how to value things without the market. So why do we need non-market valuation? Most goods in environmental economics don't have markets. There's no market for clean air. There's no market for a beautiful landscape. Hey, you, come over here. Pay me to look at that sunrise. That's not a thing, So we need to know how to value these things that have maybe an intrinsic value, maybe a value to just general society, but don't have a market. And obviously, no market exists for an undamaged climate. You might say, well, what about carbon credits? What about renewable energy certificates? The truth is, those, if you look at the prices at which those trade and the market for those, it's pretty clear that they're not fully internalizing the effects of climate change. And also, sometimes the participant of interest is not necessarily a consumer. Sometimes it's our great-grandchildren who we want to value things for. And sometimes it's not even a person. Sometimes we say that that animals should have rights, and we should put some sort of value on a good habitat for shrimp or krill or whales. Yeah, whales are a huge source of carbon sinks. They actually provide a lot to humanity already. So, total economic value refers to the value derived from a resource. What does a resource truly worth, and how should we think about this? So, the way it works is you add use value, which just comes from consumption, non-consumption, and indirect use, biodiversity, water purification. So, it's a very utilitarian object, use value. It's the idea of what it's worth is what I can do with it. Then you have non-use value, which is the existence of a request value, the value of the resource continuing to exist. There are places that we've cordoned off and made it so that humans can't go there. And you might say, well, what's the value of this? We can't even use it. But these things have value just because they exist. There's an argument that nature should be protected and kept pristine. And then the option value, ability to use the resource in the future. Maybe you're setting aside land because you want the option of using it for research or doing things in the future. One good example of this is, first off, the world's fisheries, where, in the global oceans, there's this common ability to fish, and we want the ability to have our grandchildren be able to catch cod. But also, if you think about the rainforests have so much biodiversity that there's a ton of unique plants and animals that are being used for medical research down there. And maybe today some of these plants and animals are not useful, but long term we'd like to be able to continue to use this resource for research. So it's the total economic value is the use value plus the non-use value plus the option value. So here's a little diagram for that. Total economic value, use value, non-use value, option value. Option value, you think about use in the future. Non-use in the future. Non-use value, you think about what is it worth to have this exist, and what is it worth to pass it down. And use value, you think about direct uses, which are consumption, and non-consumption. Non-consumption would be like you're traveling to a national park. And indirect use is maybe, like I talked about with whales. They contribute to carbon capture, or maybe like the Everglades in Florida are stopping hurricanes. So some types of goods. You have excludable, non-excludable, non-rivalrous, non-rivalrous. So rivalrous and excludable, these are private goods. These are the goods that we think about in most economics, where you just buy it and you have a seller and a buyer and there's a transaction and there's not really a problem there. And then we have rivalrous and non-excludable, which are common goods like fish and timber, where you have to come up with a way to stop people from overfishing and overforesting. Then you have excludable non-rivalrous. So these are goods that you can stop someone from taking part in, but don't diminish the value if someone else takes part of it. This is stuff like swimming pools, cable TV, toll roads. You could argue that swimming pools are a little bit rivalrous because having more people in a swimming pool diminishes your fun, but at a certain level, that's pretty true. And finally, you have public goods, which we talked about earlier on in the class. So when we're thinking about this framework, private goods are very easy to value. You just look at the market price, and that's what we do for valuation in most of economics. Common goods are a little bit harder to value, but they're still pretty easy to value because you can say, here's the effect of fishing. Here's the effect of deforestation. Here's that effect reduces its value, so we're going to make sure that it has to stay. Public goods are the hardest to value because they're non-rival and non-excludable, which means fundamentally there can't be a real market for it. So you kind of have to, you have to come up with a systematic way to think about the market. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it will be useful and valuable. So non-market valuation, there are several different methods to do this. The first is benefit value transfers. How much you would have to transfer to someone to make them give up the resource. Then there's revealed preferences through the travel cost method, the hedonic price method, and the alternative pricing methods. And then there's stated preferences, which includes contingent valuation, which is based on survey data. You ask people how much they value the resource. You ask people questions to get how much they value the resource. And discrete choice modeling, which we'll talk about a lot today, which is using market-based revealed preferences or stated values to solve statistically for the value of willingness to pay. Benefit value transfer method estimates the economic value of a non-market good or service by finding valuation results from existing studies. That's a similar context. So it relies on transferring valuation estimates rather than conducting new primary studies. It can involve transferring mean values, functions, entire models. So the idea of the value benefit transfer method is you have a good that you're trading in a market, and then you say that this is comparable to a good trading outside of the market, and you see we pay this much for this good outside in the market. This good outside the market is roughly similar. Maybe you make an adjustment, and you say that's how much the good outside of the market is. So benefit value transfer is about the idea of we have a value estimate of how much people pay to give up this from another good, we're just going to transfer it over to this good. So it requires careful consideration of the similarity of the study site and the policy site. It's cost effective and time efficient. You can take a model you already have, and it's useful for preliminary analysis or when resources are limited. Willingness to pay. One way to think about willingness to pay is that you ask someone how much they're willing to pay. You say, how much are you willing to pay to look at a tree or have the existence of a forest? I think it's kind of a hard thing to do because people don't really have like a good barometer of like what willingness to pay is, or like how much they really do value things. And also, it's not clear that willingness to pay is the only way you can value things, but it's a primary metric of free market economics, which is why I think a lot of people see willingness to pay that way. And then finally, revealed preferences versus stated preferences. You have market valuation at the top, and you have revealed preferences, which focus on either market data or experiments, where you're trying to get at what the actual market is saying. Then you have stated preferences, which is direct surveys, indirect surveys. You're asking people how much they value things. So that was a very quick introduction to non-market valuation. In the next lecture, we'll get started on, or the next video of the same lecture, we'll get started on revealed preference methods. I hope you have a great day, and thank you.